listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex coming here, and we're back with episode 73 of the Money Monopolizers podcast. And I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, this week in general was a little bit different, but today in particular is doing pretty good. This week, I don't know if anybody has been keeping up with the news, but if y'all saw what's going on in all of Texas, like Texas was pretty much doesn't know how to handle cold weather. So as soon as it dropped below 40, everybody is going crazy. Like I know before, I think we talked about this last week a little bit. What was going on in Dallas, where they had Fort Worth, where they had like the 100-car pileup because it was starting to snow and ice out there, and then they started moving down south, and like power was out. People's houses were flooding from pipes bursting. It was a crazy mess. So we ended up staying with my girl for about 3 days straight. We stayed with her and her family. Like my whole family stayed with her family. So it was a different experience. But hey, I just made the best of everything. I actually kept working on like other businesses that I plan on coming out soon. So I'm just trying to find the best in every situation. So I was trying to stay positive, but I'm doing good overall. Everything is going pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good, man. It's, at the end of the day, Texas just isn't prepared for, weather like this. Just because, we could talk about like, the pile up and all that kind of stuff that was happening. But it's like, man, even the municipalities aren't prepared either. Because it's like other states, they gonna have those streets salted. They gonna have snow plows out. All that stuff would have been there. We have freaking, backhoes on the freeways clearing out snow. So it's like, obviously, we're not prepared for that. They essentially were initiating rolling blackouts all throughout the state because ERCOT, which is the organization that regulates the energy usage, they just said that everybody has to, there was too much power being consumed because everybody had their heat on. So,
yes, on blast too, I'm sure, I bet.
Yeah, so, they're like, all right, we're going to have to limit this. So it was a struggle, especially, Monday it got real cold. It was inside my crib. And if y'all don't know, I live in a garage apartment. So it's like, it got real cold that day. So it was like, felt like 30 degrees inside. It was crazy.
Boy, talking about he could see his breath.
Yeah, no electricity. So it's like, you can't do nothing. You just got to wrap up in a blanket. So, we had to thug it out, unfortunately. Thank God I had no kids, because I don't know, like people that had kids and had to deal with that situation, that's a lot, more stressful. Like I always say, I could suffer, which is why I don't mind taking risks. I could suffer, but I don't want to have nobody else I have to think of or consider before I decide to do something stupid. As far as the reviews, we're still doing that giveaway. Do it to the end of February, so we'll probably get, how many more episodes will we get? I guess this will be the last episode.
Yeah, this is probably the last one.
Yeah, so it's gonna go till February 25th, and no, February 28th. It'll go to the last day of the month.
Yeah.
So make sure you leave a review. When did we start that? I think it was on the 4th. You know what? I'll go to March 4th. So leave a review and send a screenshot into Money Monopolizer Instagram page with your review, and you will get entered for a chance to win a course and also a shirt. The real estate course, How to Acquire Your First Flip or Rental Property, includes nearly 10 hours of content that will teach you everything that you need to know. Not one stone was left unturned. So everything you might need to know about how to get into real estate will be in that course, including other resources as well that'll help you. So for a chance to win that, leave a review. Look, like I said last week, the reviews help the algorithm to rank us higher. We're trying to get ranked higher. And so that's what we have to do right now. But other than that, man, we had a good episode today. What were you about to say?
No, I just thought of one other thing because I don't think we mentioned this in a while. So we also are still pursuing the apartment deals. I wanted to mention it this time because I actually talked to two of my investors this week and just like brought them up to speed with where we currently are in that process. So if anybody else is looking to invest with us, we're looking for a minimum investment of 25,000. We will talk to you more in depth about any of the all the details of the investment. So if anybody is looking to invest with us in our apartment deals, reach out to us on Money Monopolizers on Instagram, Twitter, wherever you follow us at. Just check us out, reach out to us, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, man. But yeah, we had a good episode today. So I think we got into cryptocurrency, which is something we haven't touched before. So it was good to dive into that because I know that's something that's getting, a lot of publicity right now, just based off of some of the recent events in the past year or so. So, it's definitely something that a lot of people, I was even asked about this early on when we started the podcast. But obviously, I mean, it took 73 episodes. So we got to it eventually, but I definitely want to make sure that we brought someone on here that was knowledgeable in what they were talking about. Because like I said, we don't ever really talk about stuff unless, we're knowledgeable on it. And so that's why, there's certain topics we don't even touch because, we want to make sure the first time we talk about it, we're giving the right information. So today we got to talk about cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin with Justin Rhedrick, aka Bitcoin Vegan. And we got into a lot, man. This was it was an episode packed full of a lot of information that can really help you decide whether or not you want to or whether you think you should be investing in Bitcoin, right? Because there's a lot of like I said, publicity around it. And personally, I think you should be investing in Bitcoin, especially after this episode. I mean, I even at the end of the episode, I did a live investment on the podcast of $400 into Bitcoin. So we'll see how that plays out. I'll keep you updated on that. But yeah, man, it was a good episode overall. I know I walked away knowing a lot more, and I did my research before, but he definitely went into more detail and made me comfortable with making that investment. I'm gonna say it now. Me investing whatever amount into this asset does not mean that you should do the same. DYOR, do your own research. Use this podcast to help you do research. But at the end of the day, you make your own decisions. Don't do something because someone else is doing it. Don't do something definitely because I'm doing it. Because you don't know what my risk tolerance is. So you might not have the same risk tolerance as me. So that being said, do your own research. But let's get back to the show.
So we're not going to come on here and just start sharing knowledge of what we learned about it because we're not experts in that field. So we're going to find somebody who has been doing this for a long time. He's been researching it for like what was it, 09 where he first started looking into it. In 2016 when he started actually investing into where he first had, saw it in 09 or like 2010, I forgot, but he started investing in 16. So he had that 5 years of experience ever since then. So now he's able to start speaking on his losses and his failures as well as his successes, and he's a credible source for it, unlike us who are just now getting into it. But overall, it was a really good episode though, and I think that a lot of our listeners will get a lot of value out of it because, like, just for myself, for instance, I'm going to go back and check it out again myself because there's a lot of information from beginner to intermediate, I believe, as far as like what he was telling us about what Bitcoin is and like why it should be viewed as more valuable than what people give it credit for.
Yeah, man. So let's get into it. What up, Justin? How you doing today, bro?
Doing good. How about y'all, man?
Doing well, man. Like we was talking about before, we haven't done an episode on Bitcoin or even cryptocurrency for that matter yet on the podcast. So, having you come on here to drop some knowledge, is definitely going to be a lot of value for us and our audience as well. So we're happy, for you to be the first guest to come on here and talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin specifically. Can you kind of explain what exactly cryptocurrency and Bitcoin is so that people can understand that real quick as far as, because I remember when I tried to research it, it was like, this was a few weeks ago. And I was like, let me search this on YouTube first. And then so I, was researching it, reading about it. The first video, clicked it, looked at it. It was like no clear explanation. It was not clear at all. So I was like, okay, I almost gave this video a dislike because I'm mad. YouTube ranked this number one. So I went to the next video, and that was a lot more clear. But I want to hear kind of just based off of your experience, what is cryptocurrency and what exactly is Bitcoin?
Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. It's the very first one. Other cryptocurrencies people might talk about, but there are a lot of distractions. They don't have the same properties Bitcoin has. Some properties Bitcoin has. Bitcoin has a hard cap supply of 21 million, so that will always make a supply and demand situation. A lot of these other coins and U.S. dollar does not have a cap, so you can print an unlimited amount of supply, which will also make an inflation. Bitcoin is also a medium of exchange. I can send it to you for forms of payment. And if you don't want to keep your money there, you don't have to. You can take it out any currency you want. So it operates a little bit like a stock, but like I said, I can't send you Tesla for payments.
Right.
All right. Here's another thing. Bitcoin did not buy $1.5 billion worth of Tesla. And on top of that, Bitcoin is, like I said, it's decentralized. So it's not under government control. It's not under government regulations. And you might hear, governments ask people to, put this on your tax sheets. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin is not regulated by the government. All right. So that gives the opportunity for free flowing of money. That gives the opportunity for leveling the playing field to get to wealth for all people. So we got cryptocurrency, storage of value, medium of exchange, scarcity. We got price appreciation, which goes with scarcity, and the last but not least, decentralization. Mm-hmm. So those are just like a few points that Bitcoin is, and how it differs from everything else. It's pretty much just the same properties, but also the fact of how it appreciates, and that it's not within the government control. Any investment you think of will still go back to some form of government or some form of institution. Bitcoin does not. But I want everybody to send me a message who's listening called Bitcoin to Mars, and I'm gonna send you you could send me your name and email, and I'm gonna send a free chapter of my book to anybody who sends a message to me. You can say Bitcoin to Mars, just send me your name and email, and I'll send it out to you.
Before I was like, yo, up until really like the end of 2020 and then really earlier this year, man, I was, I didn't know too much about Bitcoin. Obviously, I don't own any Bitcoin right now. Hopefully we're
gonna change that though.
Right. Yeah. So, but once I saw, like I said, Elon Musk, he cashed out on, 1.5 billion at Tesla on Bitcoin. They're going to start accepting that, certain cities are starting to take Bitcoin. Retailers are taking Bitcoin. So it's like, man, okay, this is something that's gaining traction. We've seen a lot of institutions putting money into it now. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to get left out.
So, yeah. Hell nah. You don't want to do that, brother.
Right. So, and especially because, this is something that's one of those things it's in the very early stage. Like we talking Bitcoin was like 2008, 2009. It's like, we're only in the first, 15 years right now. So, in the next 100 years, you're going to be, I don't want to be at that point where it's like you hearing people say, yo, what was you doing in 2020 whenever Bitcoin was at, this.
Yeah.
So
nobody wants that on their record, man. Nobody wants that on their record. Your girl might leave you if you start having that shit on your record.
Right. So before we get into it, can you really kind of give us a background in terms of like how you got into Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and then Bitcoin, and then also kind of how you got to kind of what you're doing right now in terms of like educating people on it, and then we'll dive into a lot of the technicalities with it afterwards.
Okay, cool. So what I first want to say is thank you all for having me on here. As always, it's always good to see brothers who allow people from the Bitcoin space to come and talk about Bitcoin to their audience, because you didn't take the role of being a know-it-all. You invited someone on, so that stands out, shows a lot about you too, and how much you value your listeners. Very early on in 2000, and well, it wasn't early on, around 2007, 2006. I mean, I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school, and me and my mother, we had lost our home that year due to foreclosure and some things that were taking place with the housing market crash at that time, even before it really happened. So that was my senior year. It really knocked me back. I wanted to play ball, wanted to go to college and play ball, win state championships, but instead I ended up transferring to a school too late. I witnessed one of my friends at that school get killed at a party that same year. And so, I wasn't really necessarily feeling school, but I was just staying in there. So I graduated West Charlotte High School, went to North Carolina A&T. So for all y'all listeners who might go to HBCUs, Aggie Pride out here, you know what I'm saying? So after 2 years in college, I ended up dropping out of school. But I dropped out the semester after making the dean's list. Funny reason why, because like it was 08, '09, it was '09. And the professor put up on the board, he said, you guys won't be able to have jobs in your field for the next 4 or 5 years. And I was just like, man, that don't sound too right, man. Like, why will I continuously sit in school when you're telling me I won't get jobs? And you look at your professor at that time as like God almost. So I decided to drop out. And when I dropped out of school, I went back home. I didn't have a plan, but, I started making moves and decisions out of desperation that led me to go to prison for 3 years. So when I had gone to prison, I was just sitting in there. I'm like, bro, I'm smarter than this. I made dumbass decisions, but it made it real easy to make the right calls. You know what I'm saying? It made it real easy. I did a lot of studying, a lot of reading of myself, studying and increasing my intelligence. And I just was always, when I was about to leave prison, I was like, no matter what it is, I'm gonna succeed, no matter what. Like, it doesn't matter. I always looked up to people who are sometimes the greatest, but people might call it like, picking the cherry pickers, but you'll never really know why you like winners. Like, I like folks like Floyd because, he came out of a real bad situation and fought his way to the top, literally. You look at folks like Brady, got drafted 199. You look at Kobe, look at Tyler Perry. So I started looking at these things. I realized, like, everybody who was the greatest at something came through some type of adversity. You will not make it through life without adversity. So when I got home, of course, I'm not getting no jobs. Nobody wants to hire me. Hell, I couldn't even work for two men in a truck, a moving truck company.
Right.
So by then, I started doing a lot of odd jobs, working about 12 hours a day, $12 an hour jobs. And it wasn't until, and I'm about to have my little girl, I just said, I want to do things different. I want to bring my child into a different way of life. I don't want her to continuously go through what we call the struggle. I noticed that that's all we ever did was damn struggle. And I got tired of it. So I remember one day I was just walking with my daughter. I said, man, whatever is happening in the world right now, I need to be there. Whatever new thing it is, I need to be there. Because I was studying the tech industries, and I realized, like, folks like Andreessen, Horowitz, Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey, Tom from MySpace, all these folks already are like successful beyond means. They don't really have to do much, but why? And I noticed the fact that they were somewhere where something was started early. So one day I was at my granddaddy's house, and he had this big piece of metal, and it was a Bitcoin mining machine. And he said, I ain't know nothing about Bitcoin. Surprisingly, he did at that time. And nobody took him serious, but I did. But it wasn't until I got scammed. My mom tried to tell me about this little lending platform, and I tried to give money to this thing, and eventually I lost the money, didn't get it back. Until I ran to my homeboy Bitcoin Zay, who folks might know about. He started telling me about Bitcoin, and he said, it could change your life. It's decentralized. And I asked him, I said, well, if I hold this long enough, this is around 2016, Bitcoin's like $600 some odd. And he was like, I said, if I hold this long enough, could I really change my situation? He said, you can do what the hell you want, as long as you're patient, you have the knowledge. So around that time, like I said, Bitcoin's around $600 some odd. And then, like, I was still working those crazy jobs, but I had something that was appreciating in value. I never knew what finance. I didn't really know the finance industries. I saw a lot of my friends I went to college with, they were in finance, but it's like, they had already taken off, or that being in that industry would take me 5 years, and I'll still be in a saturated position because everybody was already there. So what turned me on to Bitcoin was everybody I knew who was in the finances, everybody who I knew, had some intelligence about themselves, said they did not mess with Bitcoin. They didn't want no parts of it. And I knew I needed to be there then. Because if y'all aren't there, that means I need to hop, skip over y'all and get there. Because there was a lot of other famous, smart money in Bitcoin already. So I wanted to be where the smart, world-class money was. And then I told myself, like, all right, if I can learn this, I could teach people, and I can already be in the industry where once it becomes popular in the world, I won't have to continuously put in the work like I just got there. And what they call that now is being an early adopter or looking towards the future and seeing where the world is going. So that's what led me to come into this Bitcoin space, brother, and that's why I've been here for the past 5 years.
Man, I love that. I love that. I love that. It's really like because I'm thinking of it, and I was really trying to piece the timelines together. As you were speaking, I was like, okay, he said, okay, so did he buy Bitcoin that year? Did he buy it? Okay, when he said he bought it in 2016, and so I'm just thinking about it. I was like, man, that's less than 5 years ago. That's about 5 years ago. And so when you think of kind of like, how recent that is, it's crazy to think. I mean, I'm just thinking ahead kind of now as to where Bitcoin is now today as we record this. It's like, whoa, he got in that low. That's crazy. And so, but I love what you said about trying to, really trying to find somewhere you could make your mark, right? And find somewhere that you could get in somewhere early, right? Because it's kind of like, that whole thing. We interviewed someone, back last year, and they were talking about how, shout out to Irish Journey. They were talking about how they got into Uber, like in the beginning of Uber, in terms of like, obviously Uber is not a public company, but in terms of like actually being on the platform of Uber, like they were in there in the early stages when it was still in like development, and they were paying people a lot of money to test out the app. And so, those kind of situations is like you find those opportunities. Man, that's like you said, that's when you can see, the Zuckerbergs, the Cheskeys, the Horitz, the Tom from MySpace, all those kind of guys, right? And so now, we're getting into a space where it's like, 5 years ago, like you can say Bezos in 1997.
I was thinking back to when I first heard about Bitcoin myself, and this had to be back in like 2016 or 2017. So just around the time that you said you first got in, I think it's like it must have been like a big wave going on at that time, because I remember one of our close friends that we had back in high school. I'm not even gonna say the name. I'll call him Crypto J. Since you said Crypto J, I'm gonna say Crypto J. This guy, he came out of nowhere and just like his name, like that was his name on Instagram. He changed his whole name on Instagram, and he was raving about Bitcoin and like just talking about it all the time. And so that made me skeptical out the gate, because I'm like, knowing him how he was when he was just like in high school, he was never talk anything financial in general. And all of a sudden he came out of nowhere, just this is all he was talking about. And then out of nowhere, he just disappeared. And I'm like, now I really believe it's a scam, because see, you was all big on it at first. And now you ain't nowhere to be found. You didn't delete the page. You didn't just dropped everything you done talking about it. So obviously something happened to where you lost all your money. You made it. Yeah, either you made it or you didn't drop to zero. So one or the other happened. So now I'm like, all right, so I got a red flag up big time for Bitcoin. So now I really want to ask you, like, what was going on during that time that made people so gun ho about it? Because I think that was like a time where I first heard about it, and a lot of other people were talking about it too. And then secondly, this is really why I always question the legitimacy of it. When you see posts on Instagram, and like when somebody big posts, you always see in the comment section, it's either Forex or Bitcoin people are talking about constantly. So you see a lot of like it makes people more against it rather than for it. And that's kind of like where that shaped the narrative of Bitcoin, I think in the minds of a lot of people. So how can you dispel some of those things and then show the proper like what Bitcoin is truly about?
Well, I mean, it's like this. Very early on, at that point in time, for me, like we really might consider like 2016 the golden age of Bitcoin, one of the golden years. And why a lot of people started getting on it, to be honest, I really can't tell you, because it didn't seem like a lot of people were in it to me. Even where we are right now, it's only at most, and I could be off, 2% of the global population who even have Bitcoin or even exposed to it. So back then, I know it was like 1% of the globe. A lot of times, and people might have been, I ain't gonna lie, some people might have been turned on by, scammy people. They might have been turned on by just the price jumping itself. We really didn't necessarily know how Bitcoin might turn out, even though we had the best intentions for it. But Bitcoin originally started kind of in the dark web, and that name, people try to keep that name around it forever. And there's always these little false narratives out there. And that's where you probably get that scammy feel from, because before then they were talking about this thing called the Silk Road, where this guy named Ross Albright. He just created a platform, and a lot of people did illegal, illicit activities using Bitcoin. And that tried to give a negative name to it. And I remember one time I was in Washington, D.C., I was talking on a panel, and it's, politicians said that, and I really had to just be honest. I'm like, yo, that's the same thing we do at USD right now, and no one's complaining about it. So those are just little myths that were out there. And again, since you don't have too much governments talking about, you don't really hear the news talking positive on it, you kind of start seeing how media plays effects on people's brains. You know what I mean? And I've seen Bitcoin exposed a lot, not just dealing with on that level, but just with like sometimes people. Like for instance, I was on the other side of that situation. Like guys I went to school with, bro, you don't know what you're talking about. You need to stay in your lane. Right. You need to do this, that, and the third, because whom they assume to have knowledge on finances didn't talk about it, and that's what hurt a lot of financial people, financial professionals during that time, because America would go to financial advisors for financial advice, but when your financial advisor isn't even able to speak on his currency, let alone know what the hell it is, he can only go with the narrative that's out there.
Right.
And when that narrative is negative, everybody has the same narratives. And at that time, I know for me, I was eager to try to get as many Black people in as possible, because a lot of us never experienced freedom money, and our ideologies, you have a lot of people out here who talk they want freedom, but their dollar is attached to a system that will not give them freedom. So hearing that type of language would shake people up at first because of your attachment to money, and sometimes people would run on some narratives that aren't real, like the one I'm about to say right now. I say, hey, have you gotten Bitcoin yet? Nah, man, I don't know too much about it. I don't really know what to do. However, the very first dollar you spent the first time in your life, did you know anything about that financial system?
No.
So it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, those are the type of eye-opening experiences people have to understand. But they get caught up because they might look at the price. Oh, that's too much. Not knowing you can invest as little as $10 in a Bitcoin and still appreciate. They look at all these other things because the noise outweighs the people who actually knows what they're talking about. That's why you have folks like me, my homeboy Bitcoin Zay, a lot of the Black guys we know, just people we know in general, that try to talk clear as day through all the noise, because you ain't have no one talking throughout the noise. You had a lot of noise, but you didn't have a lot of clarity about what was going on back then. So that also gave a lot of people fear about what Bitcoin was.
I think the media portrays a lot of propaganda. So it's like a groupthink mentality. So whatever the one source that you hear somebody saying something from, whatever they're saying, everybody's just going to just automatically believe it because they don't know what else to believe. They don't know anything about it. So whatever somebody is saying, whatever the media is saying, everybody's going to just go with that route. So if they're saying Bitcoin is bad, steer clear, and they're spreading any false narratives about it, people are going to go along with that. And even if it has true legitimacy to it, like what you're portraying, they're not even going to listen to it because of their own personal false narratives that they built in their mind already. So it's like you're just going against the masses at that point. But it's a great opportunity for you, because while everybody else is sleeping, you're over here making your move. Continue building your knowledge and building your finances as well.
Yeah, and I always encourage people too, just to do research too, in terms of like education, like learning about what the facts are before you listen to, what social media or what the masses are saying about something, right? That's just in regards to anything in life. That's, a pro tip in general. But, even just based on, because whenever I, more so learned about this too, I'm looking at it, I'm like, dang, this is actually really dope, because, obviously it's like, just going back to some of the benefits that you were talking about, right? And so if you don't understand necessarily, what a cryptocurrency is, it's kind of like, you think of it as like, oh, you go to, the arcade and
exactly.
you buy those coins, and now you get those coins, and now you use the coins to play the game. So you exchange your coins that you purchased for another service of value, right? And so that's number one. I was thinking of that too. And so, but going back to some of those things you mentioned too, in terms of the decentralization, I think that's like the best thing about it too, because, and this is something I've always heard whenever I listen to a lot of Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio show like that, and one thing he always talks about is fiat money versus people's money versus God's money, and so with fiat money, fiat is obviously that's like anything in which it is centralized, right? It's controlled by a central bank or a government, right? And they do whatever they have to do regardless of the best interest of the consumer. And then God's money, which is like gold and silver and those kind of things. And then there's people's money, which is obviously cryptocurrency because it's peer to peer, right? And so just thinking about that too, and it's like, man, it's there could be so many benefits just in terms of making that the centralized currency of the world, whether it's Bitcoin or another one, having a currency of value to use as for transactions, whether that can be Bitcoin or another one. But just in regards to just think about if you wanted to get $50,000 from here to the other side of the world, the fastest way to do that would be prior to Bitcoin would be sending it through the bank, or you get on a plane with a bag of cash and you go over there. But before that, it would be sending it to the bank and waiting 7 to 10 days, right? But now it's like, that transaction, because it's not going through a bank or a centralized third party or anything like that, it's an instant transaction now, right? So within seconds, it's like liquidating the stock.
It's like pretty much, and it's like this. So it's not as instant as we want, even though they do have ways to make it instant. It might take the most 30 minutes. It used to take 10, but the more people that hop on the network, as they work on updates. But essentially, you're correct. Compared to waiting 7 days, 30 minutes is pretty much instant to send money across the world. Yeah. And when you do take that idea, it's kind of like you liquidating a stock. And even within that mentality, it's like, all right, if I made it big off of Tesla over the summer, I touched a cool $1 million. How much do I have to pay in that to move? How much do I have to pay for that to get back to me? What do I have to go through? What taxes do I have to pay? Who hands do I have to touch? Who do I have to break off a piece of, my winnings to? As far as Bitcoin, you send it from Bitcoin to Bitcoin, and you've been holding it the whole time. And even if it is like $1 million some odd dollars, you want to shave off a piece and send it to somebody you can. There is nobody to report to actually do that. Yeah. And that opens up, that freedom of money as we talked about as well, because now you're able to do exactly what it is you desire with the funds or the gains that you receive.
And I think that just like those kind of things, right? Like the no fees, the instant processing, the availability, obviously the immunity to inflation, right? Those kind of things. I think that as we get deeper and deeper into the information age, people start to realize how important those kind of things are, right? And so that alone, I think, has been making BTC or Bitcoin actually, just based on my observation, I feel like the awareness to how important those kind of things are is making Bitcoin a lot, more in demand, and in turn making it hit, $57,000 like it is today. And so obviously, in the future it could be whatever. But that's what I really want to ask you though, in terms of for the people listening, because whenever I was looking at it earlier, I saw Bitcoin was at in December 25th, 2017, it was at 19,000, right? A year later, it was at 3,183. A year later after that, it was at 7,300. And then back at the end of December, it was like at 38,000, 40,000. And then today I saw it was at $57,000, right? So it's obviously, there's a lot of what people can think of or classify as volatility just based off the fact that it's, you saying it was at 600 5 years ago and we're talking $57,000 today. How many stocks do you know that are doing that? So why then should people be comfortable investing in Bitcoin in your experience? Why is that something that you think people need to be getting into today, even with the volatility of it?
Well, the volatility is really just like a misnomer. Because a lot of times we hear the media speak about volatility, but they never speak about the volatility or the current downtrend of the present dollar that they use. And with the way that you explain just the charts, the numbers itself, volatility isn't necessarily a big deal. Reason being, because majority of the time you're in profit, right? If you buy right now, newbies only buy at the top one time. After that, if that thing starts dropping, they either gonna sell and stay away, or they're gonna have someone like me in their ear to tell them to buy when it gets lower. And if it goes higher, you know what I'm saying, you're still in profit. So most of your time here, you're in profit. Matter of fact, 99% of the time here, you've been in profit. Everybody today who has bought since the beginning of February is in profit. So the volatility part, it just seems to be volatile. And for people that have the fear of volatility, they're either looking at it as, short-term situations, like, okay, how fast can I get my money in, get my money out? And they're going to leave major returns on the table. Those are the main things, because a lot of times people try to think in forms of trading. I'm a trader, I'm going to try to trade this out. When in all actuality, you don't trade real estate like that. You don't trade houses like that. You know what I mean? You don't trade, well, let me take this house here that's worth $800,000, and I'm going to trade to you for, a $2 million home. Nobody does that. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of people, once they got that trading mentality, they'll really realize, like, this isn't really as volatile as I think, because, I've been appreciating. And another thing is volatility breeds predictability. Right. So when you start noticing these quote unquote volatile swings, you'll know it's just a market cycle. Just like everything else has market cycles, Bitcoin has market cycles too. The only reason they seem to be volatile is because of how Bitcoin is made. Like there's a lot of, put it like this, Elon Musk and a lot of these other tech companies that will get here, and that's another reason. Get here before they do. Period. Get here before they do. Get here before Alphabet does. Get here before Apple does. Get here before Alibaba. Get here before LinkedIn. Get here before every other company you can think of gets here. Because once they're here, then you're going to have the countries come in, put in their cash reserves or whatever in Bitcoin to sustain their country and their currency. So you want to front run every single big company that's left out there. Because Batman just bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. And you got Facebook out there, you got Amazon out there, you got a lot of people, and you got princes in Dubai who send on billions of dollars that can just throw that in there at any time. And when that did take place, we saw the largest candle in Bitcoin history of about $8,000. So whatever amount of Bitcoin you sit on, or the percentage of Bitcoin you sit on, you were a part of those gains. So the game is right here. I mean, even though people might think it's too late, it's not. A lot of people who have student loan debt been paying on student loan debt for 5 years and owe more money than they initially started with. So you can actually pay on something that is been getting away from you. It's just now more beneficial. But and even as far as our community, we never had access to wealth like this. We were either redlined out. We were told like, it's too risky. Keep your money out. You want to play it safe, but you have the lottery in every hood in America. So It's always been a game towards us as Black people not to actually participate in wealth. And I don't know if y'all on Clubhouse, but one of the Clubhouse rooms I'm in called Black Bitcoin Billionaires, one of our biggest goals, and that group was created by Lamar Wilson in Bitcoin's Day. The goal is to at least get every Black family 1 million Satoshis, because you want to be able to play in this, you want to be able to make plays in this industry. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, Bitcoin is the best freedom money there is, because you can essentially buy Bitcoin today, and if you understand how to work your budget, you understand what dollar cost averaging is, then you can essentially be paying yourself in the future handsomely to where you aren't in the rat race no more.
What are Satoshis? Can you explain what those?
I was just going to ask.
Oh, my fault. All right, so Satoshis, they're like, think of the dollar bill. All right. Now think of pennies. 100 pennies make up $1. Then a certain amount of Satoshis make up one whole Bitcoin. So Satoshis is named after the pseudo-anonymous creator.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a man, woman, alien, whatever. But that's down to like the very smallest decimal point that Bitcoin can go to. That's why I tell people, hey, you can put down $5. You can get this small amount in Bitcoin. All right, you don't have to throw the whole 50K in there.
Yeah.
So is that similar to like a fractional share then? Like if you're getting a stock?
Yeah. Just don't go to other like investments or trust funds to buy Bitcoin. Just if you're gonna only buy small increments, like I said, you could buy $1,000. and that'll still appreciate. Hell, you can still 10x that, and that'll be 10K by whenever.
Mm-hmm.
In March of last year, Bitcoin's $3,600. At the end of the year, like I said, ended up at 38,000. That's a 10x in 9 months. So those are the type of reasons why I tell people, hey, get in here. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to throw in the whole kitchen sink. I know it's going to be a lot for you to think about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? However, make dollar cost averaging. Hey, all right, I got, I put 100 here, 1,000 here, or whatever, weekly, bi-weekly, whenever you touch money. Because for me, every time I touch money, at least 30% of it's going to Bitcoin. So I had to realize that off of reading a lot of books, like one book called Profit First, that really helped me shake that out. Like, all right, so if I'm putting this percentage from the business, but this is going personally to me, then this piece of this pie needs to go to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then I can start generating how much I need to make bigger dollar cost averages into Bitcoin.
I love that, and it's because essentially it's a long-term investment thing. So it's not like I want to talk about kind of the whole stable coin versus Bitcoin kind of thing in a minute, but it's a long-term hold as if it's kind of like you're buying gold, right? And so you're not going to buy gold to go and, capitalize off of gold in the next, few days or whatever the case may be. You're buying an asset, right? And so obviously what you're saying is like, the institutional money is going to come in here. Countries, federal reserves are going to start putting currency, making it, a part of their currency and those kind of things. And that's whenever, we're going to see huge skyrockets. So you got to get in now while you can still, number one, I think the volatility too that I spoke about earlier is more of a good thing too, because now you can play off of that potential early on, right? By buying the Satoshis that you talk about, which is essentially a fractional share. So you're able to, which is great. You don't have to, put the whole 50,000 and you buy the, a few Satoshis, whatever the case may be. And now you still get to take advantage of that appreciation that you might get if you did put the whole 50,000 in on a smaller share. So you're essentially buying into the potential of the appreciation, which is, I think that's amazing. And right now it's super early. So it's, just like I was saying earlier, I mean, we're only 12 years into it. I was reading earlier, I don't know if you know Chamath from the dude from Facebook, but he was saying there's been a bunch of people that are giving predictions on what they think it'll go. But some people are saying this thing could be, 1 million by 2030.
That's too conservative.
Too conservative,
man,
really?
That's too conservative. Man, hell yeah, too conservative.
Man, best case scenario, what do you think?
So what is your?
Listen, I hate price predictions, but I love them, but I hate them. Me personally, like on my Instagram, I did a price prediction of why I could see Bitcoin being 300K by the end of this year. All right. Word up. Dylan, because I read a lot of articles. I read one time Wall Street Journal said that we could be facing a cash crisis similar to the Great Depression. And nobody brought that article up, which was funny to me. But that article, then you just start noticing what the effects of constant printing of money will do. I think since 2009, 70% of the U.S. money has been printed since then. I know they said I might be wrong. They say about like 25% of the
20% was printed last year.
Yeah. So then they're gonna talk about printing more money. So again, like we talked about before, you're gonna have the weakening of the dollar, and really what you're noticing, the last stimulus check came out, not this one, but the first one came out in April, Mayish. So that check right there for someone who put that whole check into Bitcoin is now worth 10K. All right. So what you are noticing is
1,200 turned to 10K just from putting into Bitcoin.
Yes, nothing else. So what you're noticing is the dollar is tanking. The dollar is failing.
Yeah.
And I mean, why? Look at Tesla. Look at all these other stocks that are going out the roof. Homes are not appreciating. The dollar is becoming less and less valuable. There's no way a building that could be sitting in the earth for X amount of years can appreciate. The building itself does not actually get better. There's nothing about the building that gets better. It's somewhat location, but again, location doesn't necessarily matter if I can level off a whole section of the city and build up a more decent section. All right. Real estate is only valuable because it's only 27% of the land that makes up the earth.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the form of money, money just continuously gets weaker because it's always being printed. So when you have Bitcoin here, and the more money that comes here, these people will be buying future Bitcoin that has yet to be created. So this all adds to the volatility, and also the fact that there's no one in the middle of all the damn money. The reason prices are the way they are because there's so many people in the middle of the money, which is why you notice, things that happen with the dollar, things that happen with purchasing of, goods, gas goes up for other reasons. But a lot of those reasons deal with the fact that we all, in my opinion, are living off of imaginary debt.
Yeah. So essentially, what you're saying then, we live in based off of a currency that is technically, I mean, it's printed and it's digitally printed, but it's a supply and demand kind of thing. And so as the supply of it continues to increase, because like Justin was saying, I mean, 75% of the dollars were printed in the last decade that are currently in circulation were printed in the last decade. 20% of those were printed last year alone after the quantitative easing of after COVID that the Fed implemented. And so now the supply of money is so high and circulating throughout the economy that there can only be it can only go down because there's so much of it available, right? And so now that alone is going to cause a lot of people start to looking at different alternatives because now people are seeing the writing on the wall, right? And so now people are saying, okay, well, let me get ahead of this. Let me start putting my money into BTC. And so I think I'm putting all this together, and it's kind of really painting a picture as to why the heck this thing is $57,000 today when it was just at freaking 30,000 like 2 weeks ago. So it's just together.
There's a loop. There's a loop. The more money put in circulation now,
yeah,
the more money people are putting in Bitcoin. My brother Bitcoin, they said it best. He said
sense.
there's a loop that there's going to continuously happen. They're going to continuously print money. The value of money is going to go down. People are going to go to Bitcoin. This would have happened in 2008 if Bitcoin was it was easy to buy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Back in this, and this is what it was made for. It was specifically made for peer-to-peer transactions, and it was also kind of released to the world in January 2009 in hopes that people would have been able to catch on and secure their wealth. Now, the amount of people now could have secured their wealth then, Bitcoin is already majorly undervalued. I look at Bitcoin now in 10x intervals. A lot of people might be looking at 100,000. I'm already looking towards $500,000 Bitcoin price. As I said before, I've heard people say, well, it's at, $30-something thousand now. There's no way it could double. Man, it will double, by design. By design of the way it's made up. And that's only in this country. You got to think about globally, there are people using Bitcoin every single day. In other countries like Nigeria, Venezuela, where their currency is so hyperinflated that they have no choice but to use Bitcoin. That's how they keep their wealth, they keep their value.
So,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I think this is a big point because what you were saying earlier about like people are trying to trade Bitcoin too much. I think they're looking at it as more of a stock than more of a long-term investment to park their wealth. Because I know how we always talk about with real estate, we want to use our businesses to create like cash flow and then park that cash into real estate. And that's not something that you're just trying to just keep on going in wholesaling and flipping. You're talking about like long-term investments where you're trying to build your wealth through equity and the appreciation of the property. And Bitcoin sounds like this is a way to hedge against like the inflation of the dollar. So instead of your value of your wealth going down because you just holding cash, like especially like if you have your money in like a savings account, your money is losing value to inflation. You're gonna put it in somewhere like Bitcoin that's going to continue to go up in value because for one, I think one thing I like that you said is that it's an appreciating asset. I think because of that the cap that it has on like how much Bitcoin can be made. So it's like there'll only be so much supply at one time. Like once we finally get to that point where the last Bitcoin is mined.
I got a friend, we go by Fred Brandon. He calls Bitcoin digital earth. Which is cool because at the same token, like you're saying, you are parking that money to actually appreciate. Here's a question a lot of people ask me, and I can tie this all in. People always be like, what would it take for Bitcoin to become, more and more mainstream? And what would it take, in my opinion, could be wrong, is the fact that people have to learn that what they the metric behind what they've been pricing their goods is off. You know, what's something that's supremely like, there's no way a phone should cost as much as it does. Everything depreciates when you buy. There's no way that, I don't care if Elon Musk is selling Tesla, you can accept Bitcoin. I'm not going to give him $70,000 up front for the Cybertruck. Now he can get, 70,000 Satoshis, which might come out, to, probably 60 to $70 in US dollars. But once people start really realizing that the things they buy or the things they sell, if it's not intrinsic value, like working out, investing in your mental, taking care of your health, there's no way I'm going to give you Bitcoin for a laptop for the same value.
Yeah.
Supreme discount, because that physical product does not appreciate at all.
Mm-hmm.
You have to build up the value in it so it can last longer, which kind of is cool, but it does not appreciate at all. So if you look at it like this, why would I pay for a Cybertruck for $70K in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin hit a 10x, and now that Cybertruck, I have given you $700,000 for this truck that will probably lose its value, half of its value, the moment I drive it off the lot. It's a wave of consciousness that folks have to wake up to. Like, some things just don't make to me, certain things don't make sense anymore. Like, be honest, I have friends who say, well, you might want to, get into other investments. I'm like, bro, for what? Like, no. It doesn't matter. Now I feel like I personally feel like I'll be going backwards. Taking my money, I'll be making this money, true indeed. But then I'm gonna put in an asset I know that doesn't appreciate as far as the one that has already been working. Plus, the future need for Bitcoin is there.
We're talking about like trading it for like laptops, phones, Cybertrucks, whatever the case may be. It's like, yeah, you're right. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. And so to me, I'm thinking, well, in terms of, because obviously the world is moving towards cryptocurrencies, right? Like as the currency of choice, as because of obviously all the reasons we talked about, specifically the decentralization. So I know that there are, stable coins out there that, a lot of people are talking about, like, there's Tether, there's True USD, XRP, some of those other ones, right? And so, yeah, you already shaking your head. So I wanted to kind of talk about that because because like I said, I look at the Bitcoin as like, and it's an investment, right? The hedge funds, the banks, all these institutional money, they're going to come put their money in there. So it's like, obviously you wouldn't go out and trade, gold or stuff like that for items, right? So why would you, be trading Bitcoin for items then? Why not use like a stable coin for that, right? Because the stable coin, I say stable coin is something that doesn't necessarily, like, it's tied to something, right? So it's tied to either the fiat money, like the US dollar, or it's tied to a crypto. It could be tied to Bitcoin. I don't know. There's probably some that are tied to Bitcoin, but it's pretty much something where it's like you can actually use it to buy things as opposed to using Bitcoin to buy things, right? So what is your take on that, and why? I'm not saying you would invest in a stable coin because obviously you don't get the appreciation that you would, but why are you shaking your head at it?
All right, so I'm gonna tell you this, brother. A lot of times when you start dealing with these other coins, right there, you gave the greatest analogy ever that I heard a new person say, because I say this all the time. They're like arcade tokens. Matter of fact, they're like gambling. You're hoping that it pans out. Take for instance XRP. I know people who've been talking about, man, they put their whole life savings in there, and XRP. So let me say this. Bitcoin is the only decentralized coin there is out there. All right. Reason being, no matter if you look at coin number 2, which is going to be Ethereum, all the way down to 8,000 something, you're going to always, except for probably Monero, you're going to always find someone at the top of the chain. All right. You're going to always find a person in charge, which really makes it a company or a project. All right. So these companies, projects, altcoins, whatever, they have the most attack vectors. They can be squeezed by governments to get a tap on the shoulder, like, hey, it's time to go. They can be deemed a security, like XRP was. XRP's only use case was to try to make bank payments faster. And that is not needed now, since we have an app called Strike. And you could do something I talk about in my advanced course, like using Bitcoin Lightning So the moment you buy Bitcoin out your bank and use Lightning, it's already instant. There is no need for XRP for regular everyday people, which is why they got hit with the lawsuit by the SEC for being deemed a security, because your entire purpose was meant to be used for infrastructure, for like an intranet, not the internet, not to be used to raise funds. So you have these times where people look at these things like stable coins, like, all right, well, that sounds cool. However, in this space here, there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of theories that are outside of Bitcoin and some that are with Bitcoin, but that for me, myself, I look at it like, all right, that might not work out. Reason being, why are you creating a stable money or a stable coin and the US dollar isn't stable itself?
Yeah.
In the eyes of banks and governments, to me, it's like, yo, you really try us now. Like we can't really do much with Bitcoin, but you're gonna come over here and make a stable money? How dare you? How can you do that? Based off of what? You feel me? What is this being backed by to consider to be a stable money?
Yeah.
Now, when you really think about it like that, what are you backing this by?
Yeah.
You can't be backing it by no fiat money, because then it's the opposite of stable.
Yeah.
So what is it being backed by? All right. Then you have other altcoins out here, and rarely do you hear Bitcoiners go into detail about this, but I'm going to do it now. You have people who run to these platforms like, oh, I can get Ethereum. You see Elon Musk being a goofball talking about Doge, right? And the reason people run to these things is based upon the fact that, oh, it's cheaper than Bitcoin. Oh, it's less than $1. It's this, that, and the third. Penny stocks mentality, right?
Right.
However, I would tell people all the time, traditional legacy investing or traditional finance mentalities will kill you here early on, where you don't have to go through a lot of stuff. So running into Doge, running into these projects, a lot of these projects, they don't have the principles we talked about earlier, like a hard cap. All right. There's only 21 million Bitcoins to ever be made that's similar to land. But with other coins, they have an infinite amount of supply. So you'll be taking your money right back into the situation you currently left from.
Right.
All right. This coin here is subject to inflation like hell. There's a lot of supply out there. Plus, the creator sits on 60% of the supply. So he can dump on you at any time he wishes for that money. Satoshi Nakamoto not only did he disappear forever, but he only has 1 million Bitcoins in his wallet, and there's currently 18 million Bitcoins in current circulation. So there's no way for a person to get bamboozled or caught holding on to the bag because they went to something because they thought it was cheap and ready and easy. And that's one thing. Another thing is Bitcoin has been in creation for years, but just not as Bitcoin. Like there have been a lot of cyberpunk movements to make liberation money through the internet. One that's coming off the top of my head right now is Ego. All right, now y'all can Google all these things and look what happened to all the people who tried to create it. They ended up either going to jail, they stepped away from the project. Which shows you why what Satoshi did, he took all the bad parts, all the good parts, all the bad parts he made good and created Bitcoin. So there's longevity to this. There's a reason why Bitcoin sits the way it does. A lot of these other projects have only come around for 3 years. It took probably about a year or 2 or 3 years to make, and they continuously fail. And it looks good to people because we're already attracted to a dying financial currency anyway. So like, yeah, that looks like it works over there, but then you get caught with the bag. And then
So you don't think that it can become a stable coin then? Like in terms, not a stable coin, but you don't think it can be, do you think Bitcoin can be used as a medium for transaction, like a currency, like day to day?
So yeah, most definitely. So number one, like I said before, and I heard someone say on Clubhouse, we're spoiled as hell in America, right? Like to the point, like we only look at it as an investment or storage of value. However, on the other side of the world, or in some like situations, like how I came out of, I use Bitcoin as a day-to-day means of like currency or transaction before I became a hodler. You know what I mean? Like my homeboy, like I said before, I give this man a lot of credit. He was the person who introduced me. Isaiah Jackson, Bitcoin's A, author of Bitcoin Black America 1 and 2. Buy the book. When when he was first, he moved out to LA to do a YouTube channel. So Brett said, "Hey, do you mind reviewing all these altcoins for me, and I'll pay you in Bitcoin?" That's how I was getting paid. They would do little sweepstakes on their show. I would win them. I would work for Bitcoin. I was doing all these things to accept Bitcoin and spend it. They used to have a card called Shift. I don't really recommend that no more. First of all, the platform is gone, but you're really using this already for currency. And there's another layer of Bitcoin being built, something we like to call the Lightning Network. So the Lightning Network is built for faster payment transactions, day-to-day transactions. If you want to buy you some coffee, you want to buy you some groceries. However, for this to get mainstream, businesses will have to accept the protocol of how it's ran. So do I see Bitcoin being as a medium of exchange currency day by day? Yes. Are there updates that will be taking place? Yeah. But it's just like how we have moved from the internet being in the wall to Wi-Fi. You experienced it, but guess what? It just started becoming the norm. So that's all that has to take place. Just certain updates that have to take place, and not necessarily take place, but have to become more mainstream. So that's something you can Google, or folks really want to take that next step. We could talk about that in my course or whatnot. But like when you start really looking at this thing, it's always going to evolve. Bitcoin not only is a currency, but it's its own internet. The current internet is an internet that is based upon sharing information, pictures, PDFs, emails, Snapchat, whatever. Bitcoin is an internet that's built for exchanging value, such as far as Bitcoin is an app created on there that can send money or be a storage of value. So everything will evolve as it takes time. And people, they look at these other platforms, they be like, man, well, Ethereum's doing this, or XRP's doing this. Yeah, they're failing fast and continuously to fail because not a lot of money is on their platform for it to be used in a way that, all right, we want to make sure this works. If we're handling the future of the future financial system for the next several decades, then the decisions you make, you want to make sure they're the correct decisions, even if it involves, a delay in what people want. But if you are saving their currency, and if you're able to continuously upgrade a technology that is able to continuously appreciate, continuously be decentralized, continuously to give you that level of freedom, well, shit, I'll wait on it too then. Because the current world that was just running rampant and crazy was already messing me up based upon how it was created. So the days of Bitcoin being a currency on that level, like we do cash, they are coming. They do it in other countries, and also it's just about, since it is so peer to peer. Like on my website, I accept Bitcoin, for business. You have people who do it. It's just about getting the word out, more massive adoption. Because if it's really a people-ran currency, you just need more people to do it and teach how it's supposed to be done. And then it'll just start going down. People start going down a rabbit hole. So,
You know what? I'm actually going to do it here live on the show. I'm gonna put $400 into Bitcoin right now.
well, what you gonna use? Cash App? Don't use Coinbase.
I was sitting. Matter of fact, no, I want to get to that though, because I think we passed up on that most fundamental question. How do you buy Bitcoin? Something simple that we even covered.
My bad, yo, you hopped in. I'm gonna say this: I do not support Coinbase. Reasons being, how they, number one, a lot of what they call OG Bitcoiners, folks who had Bitcoin before 2014. Any Bitcoin they had on those platforms, they wiped those folks clean, never gave them back their money. They treat black people, they don't treat black people well at all. They treat their black women that work there like some trash. During all the George Floyd incidents, they put out a message. I'm gonna paraphrase in my own terms. Basically, if you bring that Black Lives Matter, or if you start talking about, black social justice stuff here, you will be fired. So there's a lot of reasons why I do not push Coinbase just on the social justice level. So the best way to buy Bitcoin is Cash App. It's the easiest. A lot of people already have it. Now you could buy Bitcoin right now without having to verify your identification. Now to send it off to another wallet, you will have to go through a process of, like KYC, or if you're in New York, if you're not in New York or Hawaii, you could use an app called Strike, and you could buy Bitcoin there. Now beyond buying it, sending it, that's something is going to be that's a long discussion that I go through. Some of the services I provide, but buying Bitcoin immediately on this call, you can do it with Cash App right now. I would never recommend nobody use any broker to buy Bitcoin. Not Webull, not Robinhood, Fidelity. I don't even know what else is out there. Don't go to no institution to buy Bitcoin. All right. You give up your power when you do that. If you cannot buy Bitcoin and send that Bitcoin off to another Bitcoin wallet, it's not your Bitcoin. All right. Your gains are going to be majorly suppressed and taxed because you can't send it off from your own self. Then you have to put it back in USD, then go the route of paying, fees, capital gains tax, whatever. You always want to be in control of your Bitcoin, period, point blank. And the reasons why, even if people out here listening already have Coinbase or you already use Cash App, you don't want to keep your Bitcoin there because it's not 100% yours. In this space here, something that scares people about Bitcoin is you have to be 100% responsible. All right. That's why I teach a lot about private keys, keeping store of your private keys. You want to be able to be Bitcoin savvy, because at the end of the day, if you buy Bitcoin on one of those platforms and leave it there, then you are really defeating the purpose of ever buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Last thing I really wanted to know about is when you're talking about when you can buy it through Cash App, but then you have to transfer it to a separate wallet. So I've heard things such as Gemini, Trezor, Ledger. Is that what you're transferring it to? Are those examples? And plus, I don't want to go into your course too much, so we're gonna save some stuff.
You're good. So Gemini is an exchange. So when people are probably sitting there, they're probably sending it to trade for other currencies, cryptos, which isn't something we really prescribe a lot of people to do. But Trezor, Ledger, these are cold storage wallets. They are good. I will give y'all one more gem to download a wallet called Blue Wallet, BLUE. You will see like different shades of blue. That's a good wallet to have. You always want a Bitcoin wallet that gives you access to your private keys. So if it don't give you access to your private keys, it's not that wallet you want to keep using. That's why I tell people, Cash App and Coinbase, even though you can buy Bitcoin from there, even though your Bitcoin can sit there and still be in the same system, you want to have a wallet that gives you access to your private keys. So Blue Wallet is that wallet. Trezor and Ledger, those are cold storage wallets. Those are good wallets to have as well. But you always want to be in control of your Bitcoin. If you're gonna buy Bitcoin, you want to be Bitcoin savvy. You want to be in control of it because you've already experienced too much of your life giving control of your money to other people.
That's good, man. Hey, we appreciate you coming on today. Like, this has been very eye-opening for me. I learned a lot today. I'm definitely gonna listen to the replay myself because there's a lot of information in here, a lot of gems. Probably got to copy your course too. So you, matter of fact, plug yourself real quick, especially like your course, your page, and all that, so everybody knows where to find you and find out more about you.
Like I said before, everyone just send me. You ain't got to send me no particular message. You send me your name and email. Tell me you listen to this podcast, and I'll send you the free chapter of my book. My Instagram is Bitcoin Vegan. It's BITCOIN Vegan, VEGAN. Twitter, Bitcoin_vegan. And on Instagram, you can check the link in my bio. I have the pre-sale to my book. I still have the pre-sale going on. I have that. I'd have my VIP meetings, which we go real in deep about Bitcoin, and you get that 2-hour conversation with me, just teaching you about Bitcoin, and then you get the course as well. The online course is only like $180, but you get to get all the basics you need for Bitcoin. Not only that, you also learn how to become more Bitcoin savvy. And at the end of the day, it's really for those type of people. Not for the people who want to say, oh, well, information is free online. I can do that. Yeah, you can. You can be digging for years. However, you're the type of person who knows, like, all right, you understand the values of taking advantage of opportunities. You like to invest in people because that's the best return. Then that course or the VIP is something for you because it cuts out all the research and it's mostly like a shortcut to get you into the game the correct way.
We appreciate it, man. You gave a whole lot of game, Whole lot of free game. That's always the name of what we're trying to, put out. So we appreciate you, man. And yeah, we're gonna have to chop it up again.
I need the link for the shirt though. I need the link for the shirt though. I need the link for the shirt though, man. I like the shirt.
Yeah, we got you, bro. We got you.
For sure.
That's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Just search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today, and if you did, we'd appreciate it if you rated us 5 stars and left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can find out more info about us on Twitter at the Monopolizers or on IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged, so be sure to check that out and share those posts. But until then, we're out here.
Flawless.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take action.